This Reddit user says, the boss keeps pushing to hire unqualified people and expects me to make them work out. I'm looking for advice. Has anyone ever dealt with a work situation in which your boss keeps sending you completely unqualified candidates for a job that requires skill and expects you to be able to train them well enough to make them useful? I'm at the point where I just want to say, let's not hire another team member because it will slow me down to train them more than they will add any value. Then they added an edit. I put this in the comments and someone told me that to put it at the top of my post. I like my boss and she's a smart person. We have a great relationship and I can be honest with her. Today I wanted to hire someone who is qualified and she is hesitant because the person is older and would not vibe with the team. Instead, she's pushing a younger candidate who doesn't have the educational background or skill set to do the job. That is the frustration that prompted this post. What do you think? Have you been through this? What are your thoughts on that? I have a lot of thoughts on this. Let's first look at some of the responses. I had a boss who got demoted to my level. He will constantly complain about the team, and every time I remind him that he personally hired and trained 75% of them, some people are just really bad judges. True, you hired them, you trained them, you think they're bad. It means, well, there's got to be something wrong at the start. This one says, it's pretty big red flag when a company is failing to attract the right type of talent. More often than not, it's because the compensation they're offering for the role is not commensurate with the level of skill required. I would start by asking some questions like why your boss thinks they'd be a good fit. The problem could also be that the boss doesn't understand what type of background someone needs to have to be successful in the role. This is very important, that right there at the bottom. And again, I'll keep my opinion to the end. Here's the last one. People off the street cost less than skilled labor. I work in a shop that has turnover worse than a McDonald's. Hell, my shop doesn't even like to pay qualified people the market rate. I'm at a point in my life and career, it's easier to stay and watch the revolving door than to find a new company to retire from. Unfortunately, any new hire you bring on is going to be a lot less expensive. It's going to cost the company a lot less than having someone with experience and with expertise and a degree and, all of the above. So yeah, bringing somebody new, younger, doesn't have the experience, you don't have to pay them as much. But the burden of training. Now, let's go back to the post. Now, this Reddit user said that their boss is hiring and they have to do the training. To me, there is a conflict here. I see this happening a lot. Either bosses hire or HR hires, recruiters hire. The problem with that is they're not on the floor. They don't actually know the ins and outs and the details of the job entailed, right? And so when they're hiring, they're kind of just doing an overall, right? An overall picture of what needs to be done. I mean, you've all looked at these interview forms. Not all of them have exactly what's entailed in every single job, right? So when they are hired because they're qualified, God knows for what reason, I mean, we don't even want to talk about if they're somebody's cousin or whatever, right? That happens too a lot. But if they're hired because they're qualified, they come to the job and the person who's in charge of them, their direct supervisor, the direct manager, finds out really not qualified. And so they do end up training them. Now, I honestly think whether they get hired by HR or the boss or whoever, training is necessary, and it's not a one-time thing. It should not be a one-time thing. Training is an ongoing thing because there's always updates, there's always new innovations, there's always new techniques that can be served so that work is more sufficient and more efficient. So training should not be something that see as a thing that you have to at your job. It should be part of the job. That's how I think. But at the same time, I think you should be the one to hire, to interview and hire, because you know the job more than your boss, more than the HR recruiter. So that on the training side, it needs to be consistent. I don't think it's a one-off thing because we need that all the time. In terms of younger, older, whatever, if they're right for the job, they're right for the job. If they have, I think to me, sometimes you've got someone who knows the job but doesn't have the right attitude. will not actually work with others, doesn't know how to play with a team, I don't think they're right for the job. It doesn't matter how much they know, what the skill and the expertise, because they're going to create a toxic environment at the end and you're going to regret it. So I think that is really important to look at. And then train them on this stuff. People can do this stuff, they can learn it, right? It's the attitude they bring in, that personality. Your boss, if you have a good relationship with her, talk to her, explain that I think you should be doing the hiring, number one. And number two, it's not about just the skill set, because the skill set can always be taught. As far as the comment with the company that's failing to attract the right type of talent, I honestly, I'm going to go back to the one of the points I made earlier, and I see this everywhere. The problem is the right people are not the ones doing the interviewing and hiring. The wrong people are. I mean, look at it. Look at your company right now. Who does the recruitment? Who does the hiring? Look at your company right now. Who's doing the recruitment and the hiring? And I mean, I'm not even talking about AI just looking over resumes and getting rid of a whole bunch of them before even they hit a human's eye, right? And that's a huge problem in itself. But if you're talking somebody who is not on the floor, who doesn't know the ins and the outs of the job, but they have a good picture of it and a good idea of it, and they sit somewhere in an office in a different, a state maybe, and they're interviewing for the job, they're posting, they're talking. That's why you've got talent becoming less and less, because they're not the right people. I think we need to normalize having the manager do on the floor who's going to work with those people day in and day out, do the interview and do the hiring. And hey, they don't work out, it's on them.